Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and today's video we'll be highlighting two of the best specs currently available for healing in patch 8.2. A great healer is a backbone that holds together a dungeon group that is able to plow through piles of damage in an arena composition and can keep everybody alive through a raid. Some healers are better than others. Sometimes it comes down to player skill, but sometimes during a patch or a raid, depending on the mechanics, depending on the situation, certain healers definitely stand apart from others. I want to highlight those two healer specs that are currently some of the best in the game to let you guys know why everybody wants these two healers and why it might be a good opportunity for you to check out these specs as a healer if you've never checked them out before. I will be taking a look at this video from the perspective that most of us can relate from, as in we all love different things in World of Warcraft. Some people are nuts about WoW PvP, and that is the reason why they play. They love the idea of alliance and horde matchups in massive epic battlegrounds. They enjoy world PvP, or maybe they love diving into arenas until they can grind out to be literally rank 1. But maybe PvP is just too easy for you and you would rather be challenged, but you don't want to be crowding a room. Maybe Mythic Plus dungeons where the challenge can get higher and higher depending on how high the key level of your dungeon is. Maybe that is more your pace. A lot of people love Mythic Plus dungeons, and it allows a small group to experience almost raid level content in terms of difficulty with also amazing rewards. Some people are also very casual, they want to level a character, maybe do a couple pet battles. You're not someone who really wants to get into the high-end content or simply don't have the availability. But primarily, most people play MMOs and World of Warcraft for the raiding experience. And that's what we're going to be taking the look at the game from. The angle we're looking at is the raid content, taking a look at the healers in the most popular piece of content for World of Warcraft. Healers come in all shapes and sizes, and generally Blizzard likes to balance the game for heroic raid or normal raid, where majority of players should be able to at least finish the raid and kill the final boss. Killing a Jar right now is a goal that a lot of guilds have, whether it's a normal heroic or even the ambitious mythic, and every single healer has a role to play. But when it comes to the top of the top, min-maxing, what are the best healers that everybody brings into the Mythic Eternal Palace to make the fights far, far easier is what we'll be talking about in this list. The first spec on this list is gonna have to be Discipline Priest, one of the hardest healers to play. Discipline Priests are really renowned for, first of all, not a lot of people play Disc Priests. If you're looking at the top tier mythic raiding scene, then yes, there's a lot of Disc Priests in that environment, but when you take a look at the big picture, there's just not as many Disc Priests as there is of other healers. What makes Discipline Priests so difficult to play, and they really are a challenging healer, is because of their intricate damage and healing playstyle. Your playstyle is going to be putting absorbs on allies and healing them, and every time you apply a beneficial effect to an ally, you give them a buff of atonement. And every time the Discipline Priest does damage to an enemy, whether it is a damage over time or just pumping them full of smites, every time they do damage, a portion of the damage is going to come back to the target with atonement as healing. So in a way, Discipline Priest can put up atonements on a bunch of allies, crank up more damage on the boss or an ad, and therefore allow for massive amounts of AoE healing while also being able to do damage. Balancing these two is difficult on its own, but also mana management for Discipline Priests is really difficult. Also, the amount of cooldowns they have can be tough, and the group needs to be aware of what a Discipline Priest is doing in order to help them do more healing. The second healer on this list is going to be Holy Paladin. Ever since Blizzard added the Glimmer build for Paladin, which allows them on a Holy Shock to leave a buff or a debuff on an ally or an enemy, and every other Holy Shock on a friendly or enemy target is either going to heal your allies or do a little bit extra damage to your enemies. With the right talent build, you can allow a Holy Paladin to push out insane amounts of healing and decent amounts of damage to together. Glimmer build allows them a little bit more of AoE capability, as Holy Paladin is probably the one healer that has the least amount of AoE healing, but through a somewhat of a gimmick in terms of playstyle, changing up your rotation and going for different talents, you are able to put a bunch of glimmers on allies, and every heal or a damage ability is also going to heal every other target affected with glimmer. And you wouldn't have yourself a paladin without a little bit of damage. Holy paladins, especially with this glimmer build, but even without, actually have some propensity for damage output. This synergy together with a powerful throughput that holy paladins bring, as well as crazy cooldowns like Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Sacrifice, Hand of Freedom, as well as Bubble, allows them to deal with mechanics in a lot more stalwart fashion. Nothing feels better than watching your tank about to be obliterated by a massive physical attack and then just hitting them with a Blessing of Protection, watching them immune every physical attack for 10 seconds. But it's not exactly what these healers bring on their own, but rather how they are built for the raid. Currently, Eternal Palace is basically built for Discipline Priests as well as Holy Paladins. Pretty sure that's not exactly how Blizzard wanted it to work, but these two healers end up being the best fit for most raids, where most raids on Mythic will end up doubling up Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins for what they can do. One of the parts of Eternal Palace that everybody figured out pretty early on is just the damage breakpoints for just about every single fight. If you're able to put out more damage, the fights are simply easier. So of course you will want to bring the healers that do more damage. And that is something that both of these classes are really good in. Discipline Priest can put out quite a bit of damage, especially with the right trinket setup and gear during Schism. They can Schism the boss, pump out massive amounts of damage, and can sustain quite a bit of DPS throughout the fight. The same thing goes for Holy Paladins, although they have to get in melee, which can be dangerous. Holy Paladins kind of have this synergetic playstyle where they use damage and abilities to help them heal more. This playstyle of doing damage and healing at the same time is quite complementary, because all of these fights do have damage output from time to time. But the thing is about Eternal Palace, it is very predictable. A lot of people that are running through Eternal Palace will find out that there is certain moments where healing is very intensive, but then it can really slow down. Because of this, Discipline Priests have always been great at it, because Discipline Priests can essentially set up a massive overloaded tranquility by themselves. If they're able to put up atonement buffs on all their allies, extend those atonements, and pump massive damage into the boss, they can do raid-wide AoE healing at all times, but at a cost of massive amounts of mana. So you'll want to bring a couple Discipline Priests together in order to facilitate that kind of throughput, while also bringing in quite a bit of damage. Similar thing goes for Holy Paladins. Holy Paladins, every time they have their wings and a couple other cooldowns, they can set up a massive Glimmer Bomb, as in they'll start Holy Shocking all of their allies back to back, Crusader striking the boss, Holy Shock an ally, Crusader Holy, until the full team is covered in Glimmer, and then pump big damage into the boss, healing all their allies at the same time. Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins can also deal with heavy amounts of damage all at the same time. While some healers might want to, in certain fights, stagger the damage a little bit, there are certain mechanics and bosses in the Eternal Palace, like Ashvane for example, where you can allow your team to take massive amounts of damage all at the same time, rather than spacing the damage out and healing through it over time. Discipline Priests can drop a massive dome on their allies that will reduce the damage they take by 25%. That combined together with a couple other raid cooldowns like Rally from Warriors or Darkness from Demon Hunters will allow them to cover their group. Same thing goes for Holy Paladins with the Mastery of Auras. If they go for Devotion Aura, they will reduce the damage everybody takes, and go for Aura Mastery cooldown, it will allow their party to also take a lot less damage, allowing massive amounts of damage to happen all at the same time, and then trying to deal with it afterwards, rather than having to stagger it and then wasting more mana. Speaking about mana, that can always be an issue, and other healers have a much easier time to deal with mana management. Hell, Holy Priests have a cooldown that will allow other healers to regenerate mana, almost like a mana battery. But even if that mana regeneration is amazing, Holy Priests are still not brought to the team because all a raid needs is a couple Discipline Priests and a couple Holy Paladins. It combines together in a couple different factors. First of all, the fact that these healers are pushing out more damage means the fights can last a lot shorter, where normally these fights would last for quite a while. You're not only able to hit certain damage breakpoints, but you are also able to shorten fights that would otherwise be longer. When you're able to play with shorter fights and you know exactly how much mana you need to spend in a 5-minute fight rather than in an 8-minute fight, you're able to use your mana a lot more freely. You're able to also stock up on mana potions and use other items in order to grant you far more mana, so you can use more of that mana efficiently and effectively. To some extent, people are even only bringing 2 healers needed for the fight of Queen Azshara Mythic. I know it makes it feel a little bit weird. The last boss only needs 2 healers. Could that be true? And yes, certain guilds have been dropping their healers down. The lower the better. The more DPS they have, the shorter the fight will be. The shorter the fight is, the more mana a Discipline Priest or a Holy Paladin can put out. And if you're able to avoid majority of the AoE damage or take the brunt of it at the same time while under a massive defensive, you are able to cut down just how much damage is going out and are able to have a much safer fight. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys were wondering which of the healers are the best in the game right now, and if you're someone who loves raiding, I think you would enjoy Holy Paladins as well as a Discipline Priest. While one of them is a lot harder than the other, I leveled a Holy Paladin recently, and they've been quite a lot of fun. I was even able to do a Heroic War Front with barely any gear, and I still had a blast. Both of those healers are quite challenging in terms of the damage and healing that they have to juggle. For a class like a Restoration Druid, I actually feel like it's a lot easier because you put up a bunch of healing over time and you know your allies are going to be safe, and then you can just kind of go do some damage. With these 2 classes, it's a lot more on the spot thinking, and that's something that I prefer, a much more active gameplay. So if you guys want to play a class that is a healer with a far active playstyle, that is quite a bit of challenge, but mastery of that class does almost guarantee a spot in high-end mythic raids, and it's a class that you guys want to pick up if you want to get invited into raids, then hopefully you guys will do, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see all of you in another one.